U.S. Coast Guard is helping Southeast Asians protect their seas. U.S. Coast Guard cutter Midgett leaves the international port of Manila to join Philippine Coast Guard ships for a search and rescue exercise on September 2, 2022. Even as it increasingly expends resources to support Ukraine's defense, the Biden administration is doubling down on its security commitments to the Indo-Pacific, from the deployment of bombers in Australia to establishing a Marine Littoral Regiment in Okinawa. Yet in Southeast Asia, the crossroads of the Indo-Pacific, heavy U.S. footprints like this are rarely an option. Washington's partners are sensitive to the security dilemmas associated with the presence of U.S. hard power and the likelihood of aggravating China. As a result, the United States has increasingly looked to its Coast Guard as an option to assist regional states with their maritime challenges, advance security partnerships, and serve as a potent soft power tool. As agencies focus primarily on law enforcement and safety, Coast Guards are perceived as an increasingly useful regional tool because they can assert national interests without being overtly militaristic and escalatory. Much of the attention regarding this development has focused on the deployment of the Coast Guard's cutters. This includes both increasingly frequent visits to the region by 127-meter Legend-class national security cutters and the home porting of 47-meter fast-response cutters in Guam and possibly on other Pacific islands. Both can fulfill important patrolling functions, albeit at different distances. These cutters will certainly serve as excellent white hull ambassadors, a shorthand reference to Coast Guard vessels' white paint schemes that reflect their national maritime security roles, while contrasting them with gray-hulled Navy ships. But the analytical focus on cutter deployments belies much of what the Coast Guard can contribute to Southeast Asia. The larger impacts will not be made by the presence of vessels themselves, but by less flashy mobile training teams and individual officers assigned as attaches and liaisons. The United States Indo-Pacific strategy places the Coast Guard as a central component of its implementation activities. The strategy says that the nation will expand the Coast Guard's presence and cooperation in Southeast and South Asia and the Pacific Islands, with a focus on advising, training, deployment, and capacity building. Notably, the Coast Guard is one of the few government agencies called out by name in the document. At the Shangri-La Dialogue, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin also pointed to the role the Coast Guard would play in the region, including unprecedented Coast Guard investments in the Indo-Pacific. The narratives surrounding these commitments have strongly focused on the deployment of Coast Guard cutters. One of the key announcements regarding the Coast Guard at the US-ASEAN Summit, for example, was that a Coast Guard vessel would be assigned to the region to operate as a training platform, providing multinational crewing opportunities and participating in cooperative maritime engagements. 3 Coast Guard fast-response cutters have been commissioned in Guam, the Coast Guard's closest base to Southeast Asia with a cutter maintenance facility. Commentators also focus on the importance of expanding the expeditionary power or regional presence of the Coast Guard, with some calling for the creation of a patrol forces Indo-Pacific, some for a rebalance of cutters toward the Pacific, and others for the establishment of a cutter base in American Samoa, something that itself has seen a feasibility study announced. The Coast Guard's largest cutters, the national security cutters, have, in fact, been increasingly deployed to the Indo-Pacific, and leaders are previewing that more will come. In 2019, the USCGC Bertholf grabbed headlines by joining the 7th Fleet's USS Curtis Wilbur to transit the Taiwan Strait. Activities in Southeast Asia tend to gather less attention but provide important contributions to maritime security governance. These include 4 national security cutters deployments to the region since 2019, often themselves part of larger deployments to the West, North, or South Pacific. During the patrols, they exercise at sea with partner forces, and when in port serve as mobile schoolhouses hosting training courses, tabletop exercises, and professional exchanges. The USCGC Monroe's visit to Indonesia in 2021, for example, saw various cooperative activities that were credited with forging a stronger relationship, allowing respective crews to work together and build on each other's strengths.